While I was saving for our wedding, my fiancé secretly bought an apartment for his mom and sister. I never thought I'd be writing something like this. I always believed that my story with Daniel was one of those love-for-life tales you only see in movies, books, or teenage dreams. We met when I was 20 and he was 23. I had just started working as a waitress after college, and he already seemed so grown-up, a site manager at a construction company, confident, reliable, the kind of man who knew how to make an impression. I was head over heels in love. So in love that I could probably forgive him anything. And I did forgive him, the small lies, the constant lateness, the way he ran to his mother after every argument and then came back to repeat her advice to me as if it was the ultimate truth. When he proposed, if you can even call it that, he just dropped to one knee in my kitchen, no ring, no flowers, nothing at all, but back then I thought it was so sweet and sincere, I didn't hesitate. I said yes instantly. We agreed, the wedding would be in a year. For that entire year, I worked myself to the bone. I took on a second job tutoring English for school kids. Every spare minute that I wasn't at the cafe, I was teaching. I didn't complain. I believed we were building our future, saving for the wedding, for a home, for our little nest. Daniel said he was saving too. He even showed me his bank app sometimes, proud of the growing balance. There were hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting there. I'd look at those numbers and think, yes, this is what family looks like. We're doing great. But reality turned out to be very different. In spring, I noticed odd things. Daniel started bringing home documents that he quickly stashed away in a folder in his desk. Normally, he was careless with paperwork, bills, receipts, even passports just lying around. But these, carefully hidden. I asked, "What's that?" He smiled and said, "Just work stuff." And I believed him. He always had that smile, the kind that made you stop asking questions. Then one day his mom, the same mom who was always meddling in our relationship, slipped up while talking to Daniel. She said, "Well, isn't it wonderful that we finally have our own place? I won't feel indebted to your father anymore." I froze. Our place? I asked. She quickly changed the subject, but in my head, puzzle pieces started clicking together. A month later, I found out the truth. Daniel had left a bag in the hallway, and right on top was a purchase agreement. An apartment. 2 bedrooms. And in the buyer field, his name. At first, I was thrilled. I thought, this is it. He surprised me. We'll finally move out of this awful little rental. But then I saw the address. It was in the district where his mom and sister lived. He had bought the apartment, for them. And what about us? What about me? When he got home, I was shaking. I sat him down and said, "Daniel, I know everything." He didn't even deny it. He just sighed and said, "Look, this is better for everyone. We'll all be together. Mom isn't young anymore, it's hard for her. And my sister needs help until she's on her feet. Why waste money on rent when we now have our own place?" I stared at him, speechless. I had worked 2 jobs, scrimped every dollar, deprived myself of everything, and he went and bought an apartment for his mom and sister. Without even telling me. I asked, "And where's the place for us? For our family?" He just shrugged. "Well, we'll all live together. The 4 of us. Lots of people do that, it's normal." So here I am, writing this because I don't know what to do. I love him. But I hate him for this. I don't want to start married life under the same roof with his mom and sister, who already see me as the girl stealing their boy. I didn't kill myself working 2 jobs for this. I feel stuck. Update 1. I thought it couldn't get any worse. But I was wrong. The day after I found the papers, Daniel called his mom and said, "Mom, we're coming over tomorrow. We need to discuss everything." Honestly, I hoped he'd come to his senses. That he'd explain everything, tell her, "Mom, my name, and I are going to live separately, but I'll help you however I can." But when we arrived, it became clear I was the biggest fool in the room. His mom greeted us at the door like she was the queen of her new palace. She was glowing. She walked us around the apartment she had already moved in, showing off each room, saying things like, "Here I'll put the wardrobe, here's where Sophia's bed will go, and we can open up the living room so it's more comfortable for everyone." I just stood there frozen. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Excuse me, but where's our space?" She didn't even flinch. Well, you two are young. What do you need? You can divide Sophia's room with a curtain for now, and later we'll figure something out. A curtain. For our family. For future children. And Daniel just sat on the couch in silence, like this was the most natural thing in the world. I asked him, "Are you serious?" He shrugged. Well, what else? We don't have money anyway, and this way we'll all be together. Mom won't struggle, and Sophia gets help. His mom immediately chimed in. Of course. You understand, sweetheart, we're a family. We need to help each other. And then his sister, a total little princess, added. To be honest, I don't even get why you're having a wedding. It's just a waste of money. You already live together. You should put that money into renovations instead. I swear, something inside me snapped in that moment. When we got home, I exploded. Daniel, are you even listening to me? We've been saving for our life. For our family. And you gave it all to your mom. And then he said something I still can't believe. Well, what did you expect? You knew my mom is part of my life. If you love me, you have to accept her too. I screamed at him that he betrayed me. That I wasn't about to live in someone else's house under someone else's rules. That I wasn't going to wash his sister's socks or take orders from his mother. He just looked at me with this cold, tired expression and said, maybe you should think about whether you're even ready to be part of our family. Our family. Not yours and mine, but ours with them. That was the first time I truly wondered if I'd made a mistake saying yes back in that kitchen. Update 2. I naively thought this was just a fight, a misunderstanding, that somehow Daniel and I would find a compromise. But it turned out there was never meant to be a compromise in this story. A week later, he officially moved me into our new apartment. Or rather, into his mom and sister's lair. From the very first day, I knew I didn't belong there. His mom. That woman had clearly been waiting for the moment to show her true colors. On the very first morning, she barged into the room where I was sleeping without knocking and said, "Get up. The lady of the house should wake up before everyone else. Who's going to make breakfast?" I was stunned. Me. I asked. Well, who else? You're the daughter-in-law now. Time to prove yourself. So there I was, standing in the kitchen with puffy eyes, frying eggs while she sat at the table lecturing me about how women used to know their place. His sister, Sophia. She's 22, barely scraping by in some part-time college program, spends her days glued to TikTok, eating non-stop, leaving her stuff all over the apartment. She straight up told me, "You do realize this apartment isn't yours, right? It's mine and Mom's. So you'd better behave." I tried not to react. I told myself, it's fine, I'll endure it for now. Maybe later Daniel and I will rent something just for us. But every time I brought it up, he just frowned and repeated, "Don't start. It's easier for all of us this way." And then came the little acts of sabotage. I left my makeup bag in the bathroom, it mysteriously disappeared, found it a week later in the trash. My groceries in the fridge would just vanish. One time Sophia deliberately spilled coffee all over my dress and said, "Oops, sorry, accident." And at night, his mom would act all sweet and caring in front of Daniel, but the moment he left the room, she'd hiss, "You came in here with your fancy ways, but in this house, we have our own rules." I tried talking to Daniel. He'd listen, but in the end, he always said, "You're exaggerating. They're just adjusting. Give them time." But time was working against me. Every single day, I felt more and more alone. It became clear they wanted me gone. That they were trying to push me out until I broke and left on my own. And the scariest part. Sometimes I started to feel like Daniel wanted the same thing. He was just too much of a coward to admit it. Update 3. It happened one evening when Dima wasn't home. He had gone fishing with friends, though honestly, I think he just ran away from the toxic atmosphere. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes after dinner. His mom came in, set a mug down on the table, and in the calmest voice, like she was commenting on the weather, said, "You do realize this apartment isn't yours, right?" I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. She smiled, cold, without a trace of warmth. "Well, Daniel's a good boy, but he's too soft. He'd never tell you himself. So I will. You don't belong here. I could feel my blood boiling, but I stayed silent. She kept going. Sophia and I were fine before you came along. But then you show up with your ambitions, your we saved for a wedding nonsense. What money? That's our money. My son's duty is to take care of his family. I whispered. And who am I, if not family? She laughed. You're temporary. Women come and go, but a mother and sister stay. At that moment, Sophia came out of her room with her phone in hand and added, Mom's right. Do you really think you'll keep Daniel? You're not the first, and you won't be the last. I stood there realizing, that was it. They had officially declared war. That was the first time I screamed. Until then, I'd swallowed everything, endured it, smiled for Daniel's sake. But that night, I snapped. To hell with both of you. I'm not your maid. They exchanged a look and smiled. Like they'd been waiting for this moment. His mom said, almost triumphantly, Good. We knew you wouldn't last long. Better you leave on your own than embarrass yourself in front of people. That night I packed a bag and went to stay at my friend's place. Daniel didn't call until the next day. And his first words weren't "Where are you?" or "Are you okay?" He said, "Mom told me you had another meltdown. You need to stop this." After that call, I sat there wondering, maybe I really am crazy? Maybe it really is my fault, not theirs. But then I remembered his mother's words, "You're temporary." And something inside me just snapped. Update 4. I never thought I'd reach this point. All my life I've been the hold on till the end, love conquers all kind of person. But after that night, something inside me broke. I spent the night at my friend's place, and for the first time in forever, I slept peacefully. No one going through my stuff, no yelling, no snide remarks. I woke up and thought, what if I just never go back? But then I remembered Dima. I remembered how we started, how he held my hand when I was sick, how we made plans together, and my heart ached. He texted me in the morning. "Where are you? We need to talk." So I went back. He was waiting at home, sitting on the couch, hands clasped, face tense. "Listen," he began, "I know it's hard for you. But you have to understand, Mom is alone. She needs support. Sophia's struggling too. This is our family. We can't abandon them." I cut him off. "And me? Who am I to you?" He went silent. And that silence hurt more than any words ever could. "Daniel," I said, "I can't do this anymore. I can't live under the same roof with your mother who calls me temporary. I can't keep being a stranger in my own home." He sighed. "Well, maybe you're just overreacting. Why make everything so dramatic?" And that's when it hit me, he was never going to take my side. Not once. So I said it outright. "If nothing changes, I'm breaking off the engagement." He jumped up like I'd slapped him. "Are you insane? We've been together for years. I gave my life to you. And you want to throw it all away over something so stupid?" I laughed. Bitter, hysterical. "Stupid. Daniel, your choices aren't some little thing. They're my life." He started pacing, clutching his head, mumbling things like, "You don't understand. I'm stuck between two fires. I love everyone. I just want us all to be together." But I wasn't even listening anymore. I just looked at him and saw a boy who never grew up. A boy still living by his mother's rules and his sister's whims. And for the first time, I thought, maybe it's better to be alone than to stay with this so-called man and his entourage. Update 5. After that conversation, I spent a few days in limbo. We barely spoke. He'd go to work, and I'd escape to my friend's place just to breathe, to get away from all that hell. Then one evening, he invited me out for dinner. Said he wanted to make peace. We met at a restaurant. I was on edge, expecting yet another lecture about family. But instead, he pulled out a small box. "A ring. This is for you," he said. "I want you to know I'm serious. We'll get through this. The important thing is to stick together." I looked at the ring and felt nothing. Just emptiness. Once, I would have cried with happiness. Now, it meant nothing. Because I knew the ring was just a way to shut me up. Daniel, I said, a ring doesn't solve the problem. I don't want to live with your mom and Sophia. He frowned. Why are you bringing this up again? Give them time, they'll get used to you. They won't. They're doing everything they can to push me out. And you know it. We ended up fighting right there in the restaurant. People turned to look, but I didn't care. For the first time, I told him straight to his face. If you can't put me first, then there is no us. He clenched his fists, went quiet, then said under his breath. You don't understand what you're asking. She's my mother. The next day came the final blow. I came home and found Daniel's mom in our room. She was digging through my closet. When I asked what she was doing, she calmly replied, checking to make sure you're not stealing things from the apartment. I exploded. Are you out of your mind? These are my things. I live here. She looked me up and down and said, don't fool yourself. You're temporary here. Sooner or later, Daniel will realize his real family is me and Sophia. That was it. I couldn't take any more. I grabbed a suitcase, shoved in whatever I could, and left. When Daniel came home, he found an empty room. I sent him a message. If you're not ready to separate from your mother, we're done. I refuse to be a stranger in my own life. And now I'm writing this from my friend's place, with that ring lying on the table in front of me. It sparkles, but to me, it's just a piece of metal. I haven't made my final decision yet. Maybe he'll try to win me back. Maybe I'll give in. But for the first time in a long time, I feel free. Update 6. After I left, there was silence for a couple of days. Daniel kept texting me things like we need to talk, but I ignored him. I wasn't ready to sit through another round of his mom and Sophia mantras. Then his uncle called. A man I'd seen maybe twice in my life. He started with, my name, I respect you, but you're wrong. Family is sacred. You need to be wiser. I almost laughed. I need to. Since when do I owe them anything? A day later, his aunt called. Same song, different verse. Sweetheart, everyone goes through this. It's hard at first, then you get used to it. A mother is a mother. Be patient. And then his mom invited me over for a serious conversation. I went. Big mistake. The whole clan was there in the apartment. His mom, his sister, the uncle, the aunt. Even some distant relative I had never seen before. His mom started. We want you to understand that Daniel is part of this family. And if you want to be with him, you have to become part of us. I tried to stay calm. I don't have a problem with family. But I'm not going to live under your control. We need a life of our own. His sister scoffed. A life of your own. What, you think you're special? Everyone lives like this, and it's fine. Then the uncle chimed in. If you're not ready to make sacrifices, then you don't really love Daniel. That's when I snapped. No, you're the ones who don't love him. You keep him on a leash because you can't function without him. You drain everything out of him, and now you want to drain me too. His mom jumped up, yelling, Get out of my house. I looked at Daniel, sitting quietly in the corner. You know what he did? Nothing. Just sat there in silence. Didn't even try to defend me. So I turned around and left. Now they're all messaging me, saying I'm destroying the family. Daniel is begging me to come back and talk it through calmly. But I don't believe it anymore. I feel like this is the end. Update 7, final. After that disastrous family council, I never went back to their apartment. For a few days, I stayed at my friend's place, not just crashing there, but literally piecing myself back together. She poured me tea, listened to my endless rants, and watched me swing between anger and pity. You know what hurt the most? I seriously thought about revenge. I imagined gathering the whole clan, pulling off the ring right in front of them, slamming it on the table, and telling them everything. How they humiliated me, how his mom snooped through my things, how Sophia ruined my dresses, how they openly called me temporary. I could picture it so vividly, like a movie, me standing in the middle of the room, and them stunned, speechless for once. But every time I played that fantasy in my head, all I felt was exhaustion. The kind that makes your hands shake. Because revenge wouldn't give me back what I lost. It would just tie me to them even tighter. And I wanted nothing to do with them ever again. I did meet with Daniel one last time. He kept calling, texting, begging. I agreed to one conversation, neutral ground, a cafe. He came looking guilty, but his words were the same as always. You're overreacting. Mom didn't mean anything bad. We can fix this. I love you. Let's go back and try again. I looked at him and didn't see a man. I saw a frightened boy who never left his mother's shadow. And suddenly, I just felt sorry for him. He wasn't a monster. He wasn't cruel. He was just weak. And that weakness poisoned everything around him. So I told him quietly, Daniel, you're a good person. But we have different ideas of what family means. I don't want to live in a house where I'll always be a stranger. I can't carry both of us forever. He lowered his eyes. And in that moment, I knew, he was never going to fight for me. Not now, not ever. The next day, I packed my suitcase, locked the door to my friend's apartment, and bought a ticket to another city. I didn't know what waited for me there. But I knew one thing for sure, I had no future here. I moved. Rented a tiny studio. At first, I was terrified. Even stepping out at night to grab a glass of water felt strange after always having someone behind the door. But now, there was silence. Pure, real silence. I blocked Daniel, his mom, his sister, every relative who called to set me straight. I even changed my phone number. At first, my heart ached. It felt like I had betrayed our love. But one morning, I woke up, opened the window, breathed in fresh air, and realized, I'm free. I don't owe anyone anything anymore. And that's where my new life began. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who left comments on my posts. In the moments when I felt broken and alone, your words kept me going. You reminded me that I'm not crazy, that I do have the right to be happy. Because of your support, I found the strength to walk away and start over. Thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart.